Hello and welcome to my presentation. Today we're going to look into the model that was developed to do object detection from real-time photos. Okay, so without further ado, let's look into the problem statement, the reason why we're developing this model. So the goal is to be able to identify and classify these objects that we are going to detect in these images. And so there have been 300 images to train this model, and it got images of the objects from various angles. We can take a quick look at it here. These are the images, something like that. Right. So now, before we start with the training, we need to do data preparation. And so part of the data preparation is to understand the data that we have. And one of the files that we have is the annotation JSON file. And so this contains the labels, which will help later on in the training. So let's look into that first. Okay, so this is the organized modified code. However, I ran this code in Jupyter first, and so all of the results are here. And as you can see, these are the results of the code, and this is how I understood what is in this annotation file. So these are the labels. It contains the name of the images, the size, and also the labels here. These are how we're going to categorize the images after we train the model, right? Okay, so after understanding what we have in our annotation JSON file, what we need to do next is to map those labels with the images. And that way we'll understand and see if the labeling is done correctly. And here we can see this is this is bottle, potato sticks, hello panda, salt. So that shows us that the labels are correctly mapped to the images. And that means that the model training will be done correctly, because if these are wrong, then we're going to be training the model in an inaccurate way, and so it won't be able to give us accurate results later on when we're doing the testing. Okay, right, so now we understood that. So then we're going to start with the pre-processing. So this is to prepare the data before training the model, right? So the good thing is the images that we have don't need that much of pre-processing. However, the pre-processing will make it easier and faster even for the model to train. Okay, the first step that I took is resizing. I wanted to make sure that all the images that we're using have the same size. Okay, so as we saw here, the sizes seem to be the same for all the images. This is just a sample, but I went through the actual file, and yes, all of them have the same width and height. But to ensure that all of them do have the same, so we ran it through this code to loop through all the images and then ensure they have all the same size. So this is a sample. We won't be able to see with our naked eye, but yes, eventually these have been resized in case they needed to be. Okay, so the next step is normalization. So this is to help make sure the pixel values are in the similar range. I'll show you an example, and this will also help the model learn better and faster. And we can see here, again, we can't see actually, but the numbers, the behind the scenes, the numbers are different, and this way it will help the model to be trained faster. So the next one is augmentation. This we can see. This we can see. So eventually here is, if we want to be able to have better results or better performance for the model, it would make more sense to have more images, right? For it to be exposed to different types of images, and so that it will be able to detect the objects even if the images are not similar to the images used for the training. right? So in other words, if we want to create more training data without actually having more images, we can do this step where we're going to flip some of them, rotate some of them, and change the brightness for some of them. And that way we'll have different variations of these images, and it will help make the model more flexible with the type of images it will get, right? So let's see here. This is an example. The brightness has been changed, and let's see, this is rotated. So this is what we're doing. We're making some changes in the images, and these images, the labels are already there. So the model will be able to know, even if this image is rotated, it will be able to label it because it knows what this is. But because it will be trained that way, it will be able to detect in different conditions. And for conditions, I mean the image condition. Yeah. Okay. So now that we're done with the pre-processing, we'll be moving on to the model training. Yeah. Okay. So here in Google Colab, sometimes it disconnects, the runtime disconnects if we want to use a different runtime type that also disconnects. And what happens when we disconnect? All these will be gone. And so it's a good practice to connect to Google Drive. And that is where I have stored the, let's see here. Yes, the results and everything that I get from the training. Yeah. Okay. So I connected to Google Drive, and then this is what we need. This is the model that I chose, YOLO. So the reason I went for this is because it's one of the faster ones. Given the resources I have, this was more suitable because in order to train models that are, let's say, better performing or like needs more resources, it'll need more time as well. And so utilizing what I have, I chose to go with this one. So then these are what I need to install to be able to use this model. Yeah, so it's an already pre-trained model. I'll use my own data to be able to train it again, and then I'll test it later and see if it works. Yeah. Okay. So modifying the YAML file. This one, it was done here. I already started with the training here, and then it crashed because this was using my laptop's resources, which wasn't enough to do the training. Even after hours of waiting, it crashed, and so I had to move to here. So here I just adjusted this file to ensure that it's accessing the right folder, the right, yes, the right files for the images. Okay, and so now we want to develop and train the model. It's just one line of code for the model. The most important part about model training is not this. This is very easy to figure, but the hard part is this, the whole preparing. Even before this pre-processing, even getting the images, right? So getting the images, preparing them, then doing the model training. It's really important to ensure that the images are in the right format, to ensure that they are augmented so that we have different variations, and pre-processed so that the model will actually be able to process them. Yeah.